Chapter 5. My time in recovery dragged on. Speech therapy had me ready to beat myself back into a coma. Learning to walk again was no stroll through the park. It's funny how much perspective is gained when you find yourself confined to a hospital bed, shitting into a pan because you can't walk by yourself, and you feel like too much of a burden to push the button right then. Somehow, shitting into a pot that someone would then have to come and dispose of anyway was somehow better. 2 weeks into rehabilitation, I almost threw in the towel. I might have if I hadn't seen the effect my slow progress was having on my parents. I couldn't even tell them how sorry I was without sounding like a stroke victim. Relearning my R's was difficult. And who knew the th sound could be such a hard-hitting adversary? For a little while there, I stopped talking outside of therapy, and they were discussing a feeding tube because I wasn't taking in enough food to keep me from fading into Skeletor. Apparently, digging my spoon in and tossing the yogurt back like an angry little toddler wasn't somehow incepting the calories that I needed. Safe to say, I avoided reflective surfaces. Anytime I accidentally saw myself, it felt like I was looking at a total stranger. I could see the worry lines etching themselves into my mother's otherwise perfect face. That was probably the first of 2 events that put a fire under my ass. It made me want to work harder at least. The second occurred after overhearing a conversation between my parents while they thought I was sleeping. The bill was eating a hole in their retirement. I was ready to pull my own plug. Bit by bit, I started to see enough progress I stopped daydreaming of crawling back into the fiery mess that consumed my dreams and the nightmares. Some might have called them night terrors, but for me, they were just as real as the last moments I'd seen Maddie alive. It was the same thing every time. Fire. Horrible, unhuman screaming. And the smell of melting metal and skin. Then I would wake up screaming. The doctors told me the clarity of the vision was a byproduct of the copious amounts of drugs they had me on, paired with the trauma working its way out of my body. Only one part of that equation seemed extremely weird to me the more I thought of it. Yes, let's give someone who is already close enough to death that they crave it something that makes them want to die even more in the name of medical care. After I demanded endlessly that they start to take me off the pain medication, the doctor finally complied, albeit reluctantly, and with the promise that I would regret it. He wasn't wrong. After a day, the constant throbbing pain and electrical zapping feeling that hit when I'd been on my feet for too long sent me crawling back with my tail between my legs. Yes, please, more drugs. I'd deal with the night terrors a little longer if I had to. Again, a part of me felt like I deserved it. Given the circumstances, it almost felt like I deserved to relive my worst moment each night. Anytime I'd start to feel too sorry for myself, an image of Carrie or Maddie's parents would pop into my mind. With those as my judge, the complaints went quiet pretty quick. Day by day, the walk down the long hallway felt shorter and shorter, until I could make my trek to the daily rehabilitation sessions without a walker, or assistance, Everything felt like a victory. The day I didn't have to push the big red button for some sorry soul to bedpan me, I ate myself an extra chocolate pudding. And if I thought that was winning, hearing the toilet flushing behind me as I rolled my IV bags through the door by myself, exiting the bathroom, I felt like a total badass. I could almost imagine one of those iconic movie scenes where the main character is slow motion walking away from a huge explosion, cocking a sawed-off shotgun back onto one shoulder while pulling their sunglasses over their eyes. It truly is the little things, when everything seems big, that make all the difference. Made me feel like a little kid again. Relearning everything formed a new appreciation for each piece I'd learned to take for granted because I'd tossed it back into my muscle memory. How ungrateful of me. Just when I thought I was out of the woods, I tripped and fell into a puddle of doubt. The physical part apparently had been the easiest by far. And as I've already mentioned, it was no cakewalk. During that phase, I'd learned to nod and grunt mostly when I could help it. Since talking wasn't really fluid for me, anytime I tried to speak up, I stuttered in the most embarrassing and frustrating words. It's like I knew the words I was trying to say, but computing from brain to mouth didn't add up. It was like a computer malfunctioning. And the words that came most naturally made everyone else uncomfortable. Legitimately, my wires were not crossing properly. So I bode my time and rode the wave of sympathy that allowed me to talk in nods while living in my mind. Pictures started to come more easily to me. Instead of watching television, which hurt my eyes, I would close my eyes and let the stories playing through my imagination take hold. The damage to my brain had been enough to make me never want to talk again. I forgot words left and right, and the more frustrated I'd get about it, the worse it would get. Stress is a crazy thing, and it only makes things worse. For the first time that I could actively remember, the idea of picking up my notebook to take down my thoughts was about as pleasant as biting into the light bulb I used to picture going off above my head while scratching out storylines that I couldn't write fast enough at that moment in time. In fact, the idea of curating a single neat sentence without D's that looked like B's or Q's that looked like P's was beyond my ability to comprehend those first few weeks, so I didn't even try. My imagination even baited me with images of the numerous totes I'd stuffed full of little diaries over the years. That felt like a lifetime ago. Then one night, when physical therapy wasn't the insurmountable mountain it had started as, my dreamscape shifted on me without a tell. Instead of the chaos of the crash to keep me company, my long-lost friend showed up in the flesh. Her ocean eyes bore into me. I was creeping through a cold corridor, lined in lanterns, with blue flames dancing in place. The shadows they cast made me jumpy. I could see a single silhouette unmoved through the darkness. I couldn't make out any of its features, but I felt drawn toward it, as if inside its darkened shape might lie the only spot of warmth in the entire scene. I started running toward it. It was so real to me, I could feel my feet slapping against the floor. I could make out the echoes of each footfall calling back to me from all sides. I stopped running when I realized I wasn't getting any closer. I fell exhausted to the floor and crumbled into myself. The scene panned out to reveal I wasn't me at all. I felt different. I looked down at my hands. In the cold blue glow, they were grotesque. They looked like the top of baked apple pie pastries. They were burnt. The top layer of skin was angry through the blue glow. I brought them closer to my face. The textures changed slightly. There was a glossy ooziness to them the closer I got. I was sure the wrecked appendages would have been apple red with singed areas in a different light, but here it was just dark. I screamed. No sound came out of my mouth. I'd been so absorbed with myself, I'd forgotten my surroundings completely. Suddenly, even the cold lighting shifted into darkness. I looked up to find the most beautiful figure standing over me. The pale skin was illuminated in light blue. The ocean eyes were full of warmth. I realized I was shivering. Because of my burnt exterior, the cold felt colder. I could see my uneven, shallow breath rising between us in swirls and puffs. I couldn't talk. I tried to. When nothing came out, I lifted my hands to touch my throat, only to find it was full of holes. I could only feel the outline, and it reminded me of Swiss cheese. My lips pulled apart like Velcro as I mouthed the name of the phantom in front of me. The wisp nodded, smiling sweetly. She pulled a mirror from behind her and slowly drew it in front of me, indicating with a single look not to be afraid of what I was about to see, but that I needed to see it. What I saw broke me. The reflection looked like a female version of Freddy Krueger from the movies we'd loved to hate. Where beautiful blue eyes had rested were sunken in holes, and what looked like off-white raisins. The skin over the face was patchy, revealing bits where the muscle and skin were melted away completely to reveal bone and the roots of teeth. It looked like one side of the mouth reflecting at me was stuck in a perpetual smile. The scalp was mostly bare, and the same texture that I'd found on the hands attached to me. The patches that remained were staticky and singed. I could barely recognize them as the ghost of the beautiful long blonde wavy locks they'd once been. I watched 2 large tears leak from the sockets. A stream of snot seeped from the crevice where a cute button nose used to rest. I couldn't look anymore. I placed my head in my hands without a thought toward how gross they were. I sobbed. I cried until I was sure the room was filled in my tears. My ragged cries rang out like thunder. The tears poured over my hands. It felt strange and refreshing against my tarnished exterior. A gentle hand fell on my shoulder, where it rested for a moment longer, before demanding my attention with a soft, pulsating squeeze. I looked up to find the once beautiful phantom had consumed the image of what I'd seen in the mirror. The perfected spirit of Maddie that had stood in front of me was now the gruesome figure I had been embodying. As if we'd swapped spaces in an instant. The crooked half-smile and skin melting away and immortalized was looking back at me. Even with eyes the size of raisins, she found a way to wink back at me, in a way that was so Madeline. I choked. This time, I was able to make a noise outside of the croaky rasp. It sounded human. I lifted my hands again. They were full of clear, beautiful skin that seemed to glow in the blue hue of the hallway we were resting in. Again, the corpse held out the mirror. To my relief, it was my own face. I saw green, fiery eyes smoldering back at me, dark, lush locks spilling around my pale face. My lips were full again, no burn damage. I brought my hands to my face, feeling the smooth, buoyant skin with fingertips that still contained the nerve endings my last form had lacked. The texture was complex and wonderful. Tears of conflicted joy poured over my face. I looked past the mirror at the twisted remains of my beautiful best friend. Maddie, my voice was mine again. I can't do this without you. The figure took a step backward, and then another. The glitter of humor still gracing the off-white raisins staring back at me. The further she got, the more herself she became, until her large ocean eyes glimmered wonderfully back at me. You don't have to, dum-dum. She held her hand over her heart, and the other tapped against her temple. I'm right here. You can't fuck this up, Cam. We still got plans, dork. I woke up. The too bright hospital room kept me from opening my eyes all the way, but I sat there for who knows how long, just staring at my hands, admiring the texture, grateful for the first time in months to be alive. What I had left, I could work with. I was going to get to the bottom of this barrel if it was the last thing I did. Dignity be damned, I was going to get my voice back. I was going to reclaim my craft. I wasn't just doing it for me now. I had a directive. I was living for two.